Well, hello, everyone. How is everyone doing out there? Welcome back to the Living Room's virtual art studio, art jam slash pop-up art making session, whatever you like to call it, whatever I like to call it. You are welcome here. So thank you so much to those folks who are joining us. We've been away for a couple of weeks after we've packed up the studio space at 149 Simcoe Street South. And now, well, now most of our programming will be online with the occasional community outreach. We'll keep you posted if and when those things do occur. But to everyone who's joining us today, who's able to join us today, thank you. And as it is November 11th, which is our Remembrance Day here in Canada, a special shout out to anyone whose lives have been shaped or touched by or informed by service. Anyone's life or lives who that have been touched by people who have served. We know there are so many people out there who've done so much and who have survived so much in service to our countries. So thank you for that. And we honor you today. So thank you. Hello, Shelley. It's so great to see you again. Oh, I missed you too. I've missed everyone so much. It's been a couple of weeks. I needed to have some time away for sure, but definitely missed connecting with community. So thank you so much for being here and spending time with us today. Let's see what else we have here. Let's see. Yeah, no, look, everything's looking good. Technically, let me know if anyone sees any glitches. I feel like 2 weeks away, I've kind of forgotten everything. But now, right? I'm sure I'll remember, just like riding a bike. The only thing is I don't know how to ride a bike. So that saying hasn't made much sense to me over the years. But I'm sure, yeah, it all comes back. That's the general idea, huh? So Shelley, how have you been? And what have you been creating? I saw that you shared a picture of the beautiful jars, the character jars that you've been making. Thank you so much for that. We're looking forward to exploring different aspects of community creation and connection over these next few months. And one thing, as some of you may have seen, we've introduced a Monday community support notice board on our Facebook page. So for those of you who are familiar with the studio, in the washroom there, we used to have a board where people could pin up just sayings of support or messages to themselves, to other people about what they needed, little pick-me-ups, sometimes, words of wisdom. And as I was deconstructing the studio space and taking that board down, it occurred to me, well, why don't we keep that going? There's no reason why we shouldn't. So every Monday we'll be posting one of those images, one of those notes for community. And I invite anyone else who might be watching or interested in participating in that to submit your own little creations for us. They can be handwritten, handmade notes with words of wisdom or things that you find helpful when you're having a hard time. Perhaps you don't have the words for it, but you know there's an image that lifts your spirit and you want to create that and share it with the community. That's okay too, and we welcome that as well. You can share it underneath the captions, like the images that we share every Monday, or you can email it to me, an image to me at the Living Room, info@livingroomcommunityartstudio.org, and I can post it at a future date. Okay. Oh, excellent, Shelley. So doing creative clay pictures on paint easels. I love that. Who was it who used to do that? I want to say there was a on TVO or something through the National Film Board. This is going a ways back now, but there was an artist who told stories through clay and clay animation, but on a board. Oh, wow. So, folks, if you're listening or watching out there and you know who I'm talking about, please put it in the comments and share it because, wow, yeah, I'd love to see that. And I'd love to see what you've been working on too, Shelley, if you'd like to share a picture afterwards. We'll do what we always do and have a little show and tell picture after today's art making time. And you can share images or links to what you've been working on, whether it's been a visual art creation or perhaps a musical one, words, poetry, whatever it might be. All creative expressions are welcome, of course. And Lottie, oh my goodness. It's so good to hear from you too. Lottie says, as much as the break was needed, I'm glad you're back. Thank you. And I hope you're doing okay over there in the UK. We've been watching and listening from afar, but thinking about you folks, definitely, and hoping everyone is safe and that this, the new lockdown hasn't been too hard on everyone there. It's an interesting time indeed. Although I'm sure you're still at school, because school seems to be one of the things that everyone is really making an effort to keep on going, which I suppose is good. So I'm glad you're back too, Lottie. Have you been working on any writing? Anything you want to share with us? That would be so exciting if you had. But no pressure. I'm not the boss of you. Only if you feel comfortable sharing. And what do I feel like making today? I don't know. I found a whole bunch of stuff and I thought, why don't I just throw it together and see what happens? I wanted to do some needle felting. Momo, hello Momo. Nice to see you. How are you doing in Montreal? Here you folks are. And Joe, oh my goodness. Everybody saying hi today. It's lovely. Momo, I hope everyone in Montreal is doing okay. I know things have been intensified for you folks over there as well, but we're thinking about you too. And we're watching the situation here. Who knows? Hopefully we can just keep on keeping on, keeping creative, taking care of one another and ourselves, and things will get a little bit better. And Joe saying, hope you and Anthony and the puppy are well. We miss you much. Well, we miss you so much, Joe. I was actually, I've been thinking a lot about Handmade with Heart recently and how you helped kickstart it way back in the day for us. So for folks who perhaps don't know the studio space that well, about 5 or 6 years ago, we started our own Handmade with Heart holiday marketplace, kind of like a wonderful sale where vendors could come together and sell the things that they'd created and make a little money for themselves, and we could introduce community members to really cool makers and creators in the, that were in Durham region. Our very first Handmade with Heart was held at the studio space at 149, which was so tiny. These wonderful vendors came and each one of them had this tiny little chair, like tiny chair, tiny table in this tiny space. It was a Sunday in late November and it was so cold and rainy, I remember. And Joe was there helping us get attention for the event. I think you were dressed, if I remember correctly, as Santa Claus. And you had tinsel wrapped around you, and you had these hand clapper things, and you went out into the middle of the road. Not the safest thing, but it was a sleepy Sunday morning. Safety first, everyone. And you just raised a ruckus for us, and I'll never forget that. And how funny and how uplifting it was for all the vendors who were inside waiting for those first customers to arrive. Thank you so much, Josie. Those are the memories that are flooding back these days. And let's see. And Shelly's making Christmas ornaments with clear ornaments and paint. Oh, beautiful. Like where you pour the paint inside the ornaments. I'm loving that. And Momo says, Momo will be working while listening to this amazing conversation in the background. And thank you for your company. Thank you, Momo. And that's a fantastic reminder to me. So for folks, if you are joining us today, you are welcome to make art along with me and create whatever you want to create. You don't have to make the same things that I'm making. Goodness knows, I'm not even sure what I'll be creating today. You're welcome to make, but you're also welcome to just sit and listen to us doing whatever you want or need to do where you are at, just like you might if you were at the studio. Let's just remember that this is a space for creative connection, but also just a place, a nice opportunity for you to relax, do what you need to do, and still feel in connection with folks who are out there, because I'm thinking of everybody every single day, especially now as I'm deconstructing that space and having all this extra stuff around me. I'm reminded of so many wonderful people, and I'm so very grateful to everyone who shares this virtual space with me every single week. New relationships are building, new creative outlets are occurring, and that brings me a lot of joy and a lot of comfort. And Lottie's saying, oh yeah, lockdown is not as extreme this time. Oh, that's good. It's not as extreme over there. I'm learning from home right now, Lottie says. Spent the past couple of weeks getting my notes and reflective journal ready for my feedback meeting with my lecturer tomorrow. Oh ho ho, good luck. Knock on wood. I hope everything goes really well. I'm sure it will. I'm totally confident it'll be fine. And Momo saying, Handmade with Heart. Love the name and the idea. It was a beautiful event. Yeah, it would usually probably be taking place this weekend or next, usually like middle to late November. And last year, I think we had over 50 vendors who came out. And Trent University Durham, a wonderful community supporter of ours, would donate the use of their atrium or their auditorium space. So it acted as a little fundraiser for the living room as well, which was amazing. So vendors would pay us a little bit of money. We never liked to charge too much. We always liked the idea that vendors could make back their table fees with 1 or 2 sales. And I know we're not the only art hive to do things like this as well. So I'm not sure what other art hives are doing in place of these events this year. If folks have ideas or if there are really innovative ways of highlighting the fabulous creators and makers who are still making beautiful things and probably still trying to sell them during pandemic times, I'd love to hear what's happening and how other folks are working with these strange and interesting times. Oh, that's so nice. And Joe's on his break at work, but had to be with you all. Joe, it's so great. I'm so glad you dropped in to say hi. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And give my love to the family. We say hello as well and pass on so much love to you folks. And let's say, yes, Joe says small space, but enormous heart and soul. Hi, ho, ho. Yes, clappers. It was so funny. We're just so lucky. Our community members, our supporters are so enthusiastic, so creative, so heartful. And I love that. And Shelley's saying some people want to help others. Why not make up creative kits in Christmas bags and donate to people by doing porch pickups so it's safe to do so? You know what, that's something, it's not off the table. It's something that we might be able to do and do manageably. We're still figuring out all the things we can do, and definitely still recovering from closing down the studio space. So there's always a million ideas out there. It's just about finding the ones that are manageable for us to do during this time, still taking care of ourselves and being sure that we're being safe and careful around and for other people too. And Shelley says again, yes, I create by putting paint inside the clear ornaments and shaking them around to create designs. I love that. That is amazing. And look, oh, Courtney's joining us. Hello, Courtney. So nice to have you here. That's amazing. Oh, and Susan. Hello, Susan. Susan says, hi, Mary. Just tuned in. I saw you were here. We are crocheting granny squares for a tree. Don't know how to share a picture. We can help with that, I think. We are commemorating all the seniors who passed from wave 1 of COVID in long-term care. Lots of people crocheting like mad in here in Calabogie. Wow, that is a beautiful idea, Susan. And on a day like today where our thoughts do turn to remembrance and honoring those that we love, those that we've lost, those who have given so much for us, I think it's really, truly important to remember that these strange times are happening for a reason, and we have lost so much. We've gained so much, but we've also lost so many beautiful people. And yeah, wow, I honor that. What a beautiful, beautiful way of remembering and keeping those people's spirits alive in our community. That's a beautiful idea. If you want to share pictures of the granny squares, I'm sure someone there might have a smartphone or something that you can take a quick snap. You don't need to necessarily share it now, but after the live stream, I post a little kind of show and tell, and you can upload photos in the comments of that show and tell. There should be a little button in Facebook that lets you click on photo and upload that there from your phone or from a device you might have on hand. I would definitely love to be kept up to date about that project. It's an important thing. It's an important thing, especially as we move into winter and we're not sure, well, you know what? Let's just appreciate one another as much as we can, because you never know, do you? And Annie just popping in to say hello and love and miss you people. Oh, Annie, we love and miss you too. I hope you're doing well. And oh, wow, lovely. And Joe saying, leaving his love as he goes. And yes, yes, yes. No, God bless everyone, and we were always one living room away. What a beautiful way of putting it. And that reminds me, Joe, one of our other community members, Peter, has created a digital sign for us about just about that concept, about how we might be like socially separate right now, but we're finding ways to connect and be together. And it's that's really, truly important, isn't it? The quality of how we spend that time with one another, even though we might not be able to see or touch one another in the same way that we were before. And Courtney's saying, miss the art studio. True, true, true. Courtney, let me know. I'd be curious to think, what are the things that people miss the most about the living room studio space? That's kind of an interesting conversation to have today too, honoring the things about the space that we miss, that we hope to one day have again, or hope to recreate in our own ways, in our own lives with the people we do have close to us. And Momo says, wanted to make snowflakes with paper and do an exchange. Send them by snail mail. Yes, snail mail. Yes, please. No matter at what time they will arrive by mail, I think I would love to decorate my windows with paper snowflakes from the community, just like when we were together. That is such a fantastic idea. And I've been thinking about snail mail a whole lot lately because that's one way of communicating that we still have available to us, and figuring out a way to do that without, being respectful of people's information. How beautiful would it be for that communication to arrive in the mail? A little packet, a little envelope full of snowflakes, paper snowflakes. I love that. Yeah, I'm going to sign on, Momo, and I can send you some snowflakes if you like, and I would love to receive some snowflakes from you. And Courtney saying, oh, what you love about the studio space? The people and the art supplies. Yes, there were so many different kinds of supplies in the studio space. Believe me, I've just been through an inventory of everything there. The generosity of the community, considering that all those supplies were donated pretty much, but 90%. What a beautiful community that we have. That so many beautiful materials were donated, such a wide variety of materials. And it reminds me too that if you're someone who's out there and you don't have a lot of materials, but there are certain things that you're looking for, you can do the same thing that we did, and you can put out a call, just maybe even on Facebook. Make a little post saying, I'm looking for this, or does anyone have any extra this that you can drop off? And you never know, Courtney. You never know who might have those supplies and be not only willing to share them with you, but wanting to share them with you rather than throw them out or have them go to a thrift store that may not appreciate them. Remember, people love sharing what they have with others. That hasn't changed during this time. So if there are materials that you want, and anybody out there, just put it out there. And of course, you can let us know as well. And once we get our bearings, we can do our best to deliver them to you. And let's see, the people in the art supplies. And Laura, lovely Laura. Hello, Laura. Love this idea. Please share pics after the live stream. Yes, about the granny squares. So a lot of people interested to see what's happening with that project, how it's evolving. And perhaps there are ways that we can honor those that we've lost as well. I think that's a beautiful idea. And Courtney adding to what things missed about the studio. Unconditional love that people gave each other. Well, sometimes it was conditional, let's be honest, right? And it's not a bad thing to have conditional love for folks or conditional affection for folks. Sometimes I think that's just about having boundaries and asking for what you need and teaching people how to treat you. But, what we can say is there was a lot of love, a lot of affection, even on the difficult days. And Nye, hello, Nye, welcome to the studio space, Nye. All right, now what am I going to do today? I'm going to start making. I wanted to needle felt, and I had all the wool around, and I couldn't find my needles. So I gathered up a couple of other supplies, more than a couple, things that I've had lying around that I haven't been so sure what I want to do with. And my goal today is to create, or at least start working on a couple of things. I would love to create some papers for some pocket shrines or mini cabinets of curiosity that I'll be making next week with some of the students from Trent University. So I think miniature, even as miniature as this, transforming little matchboxes into little beautiful memory boxes that people can carry around with them. I love doing stuff like this. They make lovely gifts for people, lovely handmade gifts. I've also seen these things like this turned into ornaments for holiday trees or different kinds of decorations. And it's a great project when you don't want to get too overwhelmed. You think, well, what am I going to do? It's different than a big project. You think, I can finish this. Look how small that is. I can finish that in 1 or 2 settings. Famous last words. But I thought I'll start preparing today by creating some background papers, some art papers for it as well. And Susan, yes, Susan, thank you. Susan responding to Laura, will for sure. We have had wool donations and lots of love for this. A teacher in Ottawa is doing squares with her class. It's beautiful. And Susan says, I love needle felting, but whatever you do is always fun. Thank you. When I find my needle felting needles, I'll definitely get going. It will be an experiment on my part. I watched people needle felt. I have appreciated needle felting. I have yet to experience it. So today I was super excited. I wanted to jump in. Murphy's Law. When you want to, the supplies may not be there, and that's okay. And Momo says, I love miniature art. I will post a pic on the show and tell after. Excellent. Thank you so much. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So as part of this, I'm just going to get started here with some waterproof pens. Just going back to the theme that always seems to resonate with me, just going back to hearts. And this will act as a kind of warm-up for me as well, because I've been away from art making for a little bit. I kind of just let myself do what I needed to do over the last couple of weeks. So let's try that. And matchboxes always put me in mind of stamps or things like that. I don't know why. Oh, Courtney's asking, what is needle felting? Great question. So I was first introduced to needle felting through a local artist named Rosemary Oliver and the Fiber Art Society that's here in Oshawa, who used to have these fantastic exhibits. And yes, Ellen's also adding in. Hi, Ellen. Needle felting is very cathartic, many tiny stabs, and then beauty. So I don't know if that completely, I totally understand what you mean, Ellen, for Courtney. Let's see, yeah, you'd get some raw wool, so like the kind of fluffy stuff before it's been turned into yarn or anything like that. When it's more like fleece, you can use natural undyed fleece or dyed fleece in whatever colors are available. Sometimes people actually needle felt with hair from their cats and dogs as well. That's one thing I'm looking forward to trying out as well, believe it or not. And what happens is there's something about the natural textures of the wool fibers that when you bind it in a certain way, it sticks together and it can become really, really dense, almost like it's been turned into a felt. So there are two types of wool felting. One is a wet felting style where this might have happened to you, Courtney, or other people out there. I certainly know it's happened to me, where you've had a nice wool sweater and you wash it and maybe it accidentally goes into the dryer. And then when you pull it out of the dryer, you can't wear it anymore. It's about, the perfect size for a doll or a teddy bear. That's needle felt. That's felted wool. So the wool shrinks, it felts together. It becomes almost like a fabric of its it's definitely porous, but like felt, if you know it. Like any kind of felt you might buy at a craft store, but it's really durable. It's very strong. It has a really beautiful texture. And when you needle felt, so that's with wet felting, you kind of mush it around and you get it soapy and use hot water and you kind of rub all the fibers together until they stick and they shrink. And it's a process of repeating that until you get the size and the shape that you like. With needle felting, you get these tiny, tiny little long needles that are barbed. So they've got little pieces kind of out of the needle blades, and you stab. So you have a little cushion kind of thing that your wool goes on to. I hope this is making sense for folks out there that are needle felters. And just like Ellen was saying, you stab, 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 stab. And you stab so all the fibers get stuck and tangled together and create that same felted effect. And people like Rosemary Oliver, who are fantastically gifted at this, managed to create beautiful, beautiful creations. So I think we think of wool and we think of fabric, but you can also create objects, sculptural things. Rosemary was fantastic at that. Rosemary actually created a series of, I'm trying to think if it was a series of turtles that were at risk of extinction. And it was an exhibit that was taken around to schools to educate students. And these they were so lifelike, they were remarkable, but all made out of wool. Of course, another artist that comes to mind is Jackie Jacobs, who's a Toronto-based artist who, the last needle felted piece I saw from her in person was a beautiful snake that she'd created. Beautiful coiled. It's fantastic. It was just so, again, lifelike and vibrant and colorful. Something about the wool and the softness of the wool makes it feel alive somehow, like it could breathe at any moment. There's a softness to it that you don't find in other sculptural materials exactly quite the same. And Ellen says, yes, this is a much more complete description than mine. But the stabby, stabby, stabby can be very cathartic. Yeah. If you ever got something that is, those frustrations that you want to let out at the end of the day, take some wool and go at it. And then at the end of it, you get something beautiful. Well, we'll see. It will be my first experience. So when I find those needles, I will definitely share with you folks. And I'll give it a go. It's funny, after years of watching people create things in the studio, I've almost cataloged like all these different kinds of creations that when I have time, I will do that. Well, now I have a little bit of time and I can do it with you. I wonder if anyone else out there has discovered or made creations that they wouldn't have otherwise made if not for this interesting, strange time we're in together. You're welcome to share if you have. And it's perfectly fine as well. I know there's a lot of creative folks out there who have found this time, well, difficult to create in, and that's okay as well. I don't think we're not machines in that sense. And we need time to refuel. We need time to absorb information and to process that information, to make sense of it. I think it's only during these modern times where we expect ourselves to be making and producing every single day. In the past, artists took years to create. I'm reminded of that with last year I read a biography about Monet, and it's fascinating to have a little window opened up into another artist's life and to have all these assumptions that I'd had about how he worked or what he must have painted or why he must have painted just completely blown away. We don't have to rush to do anything at all. Just take our time and do what we need to do. And on that note, I don't think I welcomed everyone with safe space either, but just a reminder to folks to use this time for what you need to do. You don't have to stay the whole hour and a half. If you'd like to dip in and dip out, you're welcome to do that. You don't have to create along with me if you like. You don't even have to do creative things while you're listening. You could do the laundry, you could wash your dishes, do your homework, whatever feels right. You make use of this time in a way that feels right for you. And if it gets too much or you want to shake things up or go outside to have a breath of fresh air, that's a beautiful thing. So please do that. Take care of yourself. Make a cup of tea. Whatever makes sense to you. And as always, this will be archived later, so you can always watch if you miss things. All right. Let's have a bit of a play with color and start adding some color to this. Well, maybe I'll use this instead. And Shelley's saying, for Shelley, it's drawing. I would never have tried it if I wasn't staying with a friend at the beginning of COVID. Isn't that interesting? Right? The things that for whatever reason we may not give ourselves time to do, or perhaps we're afraid to try in other circumstances. I'm not sure. The only thing that matters is that you've actually done it now and you're doing it. You know you can now. You've proven it. And Momo's saying that Momo finally had time to use all of the recycled, bought, and found art material I've been collecting for a while. Yeah, it's funny how all of that adds up, huh? Some of that is on this table right now. I'm looking forward to experimenting with some items that I've had on hand for a while. Some of this has been at the studio. Folks might recognize this big roll of what I believe is a kind of interfacing for curtains or for blinds. Remember, recognize that from my Fabricland days. And it's been at the studio for 6 years and not anyone has touched it. We've never really known what to do with it. It's been available for folks if they'd like, if they wanted to experiment or explore. And I thought, today I'm going to try something. I'm going to use it. I'm just going to jump in and give it a go. So hopefully I'll get around to it. But sometimes my warm-ups, I enjoy them so much that I get distracted. And I work on them for the whole time. Not a bad thing either. Let's see. And the recyclables too. There's so much potential there. It's like revisiting, sometimes it feels like revisiting childhood. I know with toilet rolls, that's part of what I've found. There's a lot of things that, toilet rolls, egg cartons, that kind of stuff. There's so much beautiful potential in simple items like that. Just giving ourselves the time to play and, serious play, not just, really invest in it. It's beautiful what can be created. There's a couple of things on my wish list that I'd like to explore using just that, toilet rolls, so it's a good thing. Won't be a shortage of that anytime soon. But a lovely experiment to revisit something that you've done, perhaps you did when you were a child, perhaps you remember doing in kindergarten, or perhaps you have a younger person, a kindergartner in your life right now, and you're able to watch them create. It's an interesting and a beautiful thing to reclaim some of that time for yourself. It's like when folks come into the studio who haven't created art in a long time, or they're nervous about looking stupid or silly or making mistakes or creating something that doesn't, match with their, this idea that you reach a certain age and with that age should come all this, skill, technique? I'm not sure. When people are afraid, I often invite them to make ugly art. There might be a few people listening who I've invited to do that over time. And I invite them to do that because that's what I do sometimes when I'm stumped or when I'm feeling, that voice of resistance coming up inside of me. Create the worst, ugliest art that you can imagine and really put your heart into it. And it's amazing what happens. But one of the things that I hope happens is that you dispel that fear in yourself, that edge of being worried that what you create isn't enough will go away, because of course everything that you create is more than enough. And who are we trying to impress anyways, right? And Laura's saying all the cardboard bits are going to M school now. Yeah, I guess so. Waiting for them to say we have enough. Laura used to bring so many amazing cardboard bits and pieces from work to us at the studio. They even found their way into our giant puppets, different pieces of jewelry that people have made for themselves, plant holders, I think. So many amazing uses for things like that. Well, I'm jealous of M School getting a hold of those. They're great. Sort of industrial cardboard pieces that are like a different quality of cardboard, really strong. It's great. And Momo says, ugly art is awesome. I love ugly art. A lot of people do, right? And it's all just a matter of perception, too. What ugly is. I know that sometimes I need to step back from what I'm doing. And oftentimes for me, it's a case of really stepping back. So putting it aside, especially if that inner critic is being super loud, but putting it aside, sometimes for a couple of years, I'll come back to it and I'll suddenly see it with completely new eyes and absolutely love what I was working on. Oh, awesome. Momo says I made 3 masks out of Kleenex boxes for Halloween Zoom parties. Momo, can we see some of those? Can you post some of those in the show and tell? I would love to see those. One of the things, as I was packing up the studio and moving into storage, that occurred to me, one thing I'm really looking forward to is when we can gather again outside, maybe in parks and things like that. I'd love to have another puppet building day or mask building day where we make some giant puppet heads and making like masks for ourselves using cardboard, using those, simple materials that we might already have around the house. And we'll have space to do it. That would be a lovely thing. I'm looking forward to that. So let me leave that one, move on to the next one. Lovely. And folks, yeah, feel free to share pictures. You can share pictures during if you in the stream here, but you're also welcome to share in our show and tell post that we make after the live stream. So if there's things you've been working on, things you'd like to share, perhaps things made like by other artists or creatives in the community or out there in the world that you found really inspiring for your own creative purpose and process, you can share links to those folks as well. And Laura's saying, I have a Wednesday Addams mask my daughter made last year. We'll show and tell too. Excellent. Yeah. We kind of missed out on the Halloween week live stream. And at the Living Room, Halloween was always something we loved doing. Always dressed up. Had some fun with that. And people really got creative this year with Halloween. I don't know about folks living outside of Oshawa, but there were some really fun and heartwarming outreach, kind of Halloween outreach things that were done here for folks, considering that we couldn't do it in the way we would normally do it. Yeah, but definitely love Halloween. And Shelley's saying the 2 trips I did go to the living room, it was exactly the way Mary just said. I was nervous about trying anything. There's so much. And Shelley's excuse at that time sounds like it was I had to deal with our kids. We encounter that a lot, Shelley. So it's not just you. So please, be gentle with yourself there. That is something that so many of us struggle with. And I think it's really easy if you're a helping professional and you're bringing folks to the studio. It was one of the constant conversations I would have with helping professionals. Because we're the worst sometimes, right? It's easy to be there for other people instead of being there for ourselves, or easier to give all of ourselves to other people than making space for ourselves in that creative time. So that was one of the conversations I would have with folks when they came by with groups. It's just reminding the kind of the facilitators of those groups, or the leaders, or the the chaperones, whatever the term might be, the teachers, always interesting, reminding teachers that they are welcome to create as well, right? It's the inner critics are really big, really well formed. So you're not the only one. But I always had fun reminding people, and so I still remind people in these sessions too, like perhaps you're working with other people, perhaps you might have come out or be listening to something like this with the intention of doing it for other people or with other people, but you're an artist as well. And you are worthy of giving yourself that time to create, to play, to make mistakes, right? Make big, beautiful, ugly, colorful mistakes, or dark, messy mistakes, whatever it might be. Why not? You're entitled. And Carlos saying, loving this blend of words and heart art. Oh, Carlos, it's so good to see you too. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I was hoping to make some poppies today with this interfacing, so my warm-ups always turn in. I just never always enjoy the warm-ups. I guess that's a good thing, right? But interesting how we can be so hard on ourselves. And it's okay. I can honestly say that making art at the studio, holding space for people at the studio, was a great excuse for me not to make art while I was there. So I fall into that too. Just one of the reasons why I appreciate this time so much that I get to spend with you. Making time for ourselves and our creativity matters. Now, I think when I do set this aside, I'll let it dry and then I'll come back into it with some pencil crayons after, perhaps. Oh, Angel. Hey, Angel. So glad to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Angel, you've been getting truly creative. Every day I'm seeing you post beautiful artwork. I'm hoping that you've also been making music as well. I think the last time I saw you, I was walking my dog. We were heading over to pick up some stuff for her, and I was all masked up, and we were across a busy street full of traffic. It was one of those across the street waves. Hello. And Carlos saying, I love how the heart is merging and blending in such a way with the words of that art piece. Interesting. Yeah, you know what? I hadn't paid so much attention to what the words that were behind there, but it is, I think, a kind of love story going on in there. Interesting. I'll have to look it over more in detail later on. And there's some, yeah, you're right, something beautifully symbolic about that. That's the kind of machine that I think all of us are, meaning-making machines, as Charlene might say. Let's see. And Shelley's saying, when the living room opens again, I would love to volunteer. Well, you know what? We'll keep you posted. How it opens might look a lot different, but it's a fascinating thing. And people who have had the experience and like spending time there and being recruited as volunteers, you can speak to this as well. It's almost like everyone who comes and out and participates is a volunteer. And I've seen you, Shelley, actually act like a volunteer in these live streams as well. So for me, this beautiful thing happens where through participating on your own, making your own art, kind of finding your own place in the space, whether it's a virtual space or a physical space, you begin to feel this sense of agency and a kind of delightful caring. It's a community of care that begins to emerge. And so one feels invested in being there for other people and supporting other people and, saying hello to new people who join the live stream, which I've seen you do, of welcoming people, of acknowledging them, affirming them. And that was something that happened in the studio space all the time, where it was a beautiful thing to see happen. And one of the things that we always hope and expect in art hives will happen, where people begin to see one another and acknowledge one another. And that, for me, is the beginning. It is volunteering in its sense, because you are being of service to other people. It's not that I've said be of service to other people. You just happen to become that person who is aware and observant and anticipating not only like other people's needs, but your own needs. And that is that beautiful process of volunteering that I love so much. And there have been plenty of times where I've had to call upon people in random moments without training or anything like that, just to say, hey, help, right? And that's how, that volunteering thing happens. So whether we're here or we're in the space, I'm sure you'll continue to do that, to be observant, be aware. And it all starts with taking care of yourself and anticipating, your own needs or, my own needs. Like I have to remember that as well, because you can't be of service to anyone else unless you're of service to yourself and your own heart, wherever you might be. And Angel saying, oh, about art? I hope this is about art. Angel saying, I can't stop, so I'm going to assume that you're talking about making art. Because you're so prolific, Angel. It's an amazing thing what happens when we make space for creativity. And I consider, too, just revisiting that idea of time and history and looking back. I think it's worthwhile revisiting how other people created in the past and the expectations that were set upon them or they set upon themselves. They're very different from what we expect of ourselves today. I think it's a nice healthy reminder sometimes the demands we place upon ourselves are sometimes social constructs. They don't necessarily need to be what they are. So we can give ourselves a break, cut ourselves some slack, reorganize our minds, our hearts, our schedules. I think it's definitely a lesson I'm trying to teach myself. What do I think? I think that might be good to start. All right. Yeah. I'm going to let that dry and I'm going to play with some interfacing. And that's my song for you folks. So I'm just going to, let's see, throw that there. I'm just going to let that dry, and once it's dried, I'll go in with some pencil crayons, add some highlights, some layers with color, and then I'll see about adding them into my little pocket shrine, my little pocket cabinet of curiosities as a base, or maybe a cover. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So I will put this over here to dry. And then I will see if I can make friends with this interfacing. Cut some pieces. It's funny what gets used and what doesn't get used at the studio. As I was sorting through things, that was a really interesting process as well. It was like a little, oh, thank you. Carlos says that was 'twas a beautiful song, Carlos says. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Let's see, let's experiment. Oh, that's a little bit dry. Yeah, packing away the supplies was it was like a little window into the community and what the community needs, what the community uses, what they don't use. And things where I could track how they'd been used over time. Like any other person, we all go through phases of creation. We love, we might be in love with a certain kind of making at any given time, so we'll do it a lot. And we fall out of love with it and move on to something else. The community has a similar kind of flow to it with how communities on whole interact and engage. That makes sense? What they use, the materials that are left behind, the things that are in demand. I think there was always a demand for pencil crayons and coloring. That seemed to be something that everyone wanted to do, could do. It was the go-to for a lot of people in the community. So when we were sorting through and, sharing supplies with folks, that was one thing. We had so many pencil crayons that we were able to share with community, which was great. But other things that have been at use or in demand over the years, let's see. I remember there was a period of time where everyone was very much into jewelry making or beading. And beading not always for jewelry making, because we have a large Métis community in Oshawa as well. So I remember when folks like Tanya might be at the studio practicing their stitchery and their beads and creating those beautiful beaded patches and things like that with all the floral and the natural motifs that the Métis community is known for. And as soon as one person started doing that, as soon as Tanya would show what she was working on or share what she was working on, then everyone else would start as well. And there would be a run on beads. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And needle felting, actually, revisiting that. And even this mug, I found this mug. I didn't know where it was. I thought I'd lost it, but it was in the very back of the cupboard at the studio. So I'm so glad that I found it. It was a gift from someone, so thank you. If you're out there, thank you. And needle felting was another thing that was contagious in the studio. As soon as someone started working on needle felting, people would just gather around and watch. So I think Rosemary was the first person to introduce it to our space, but Rosemary Oliver, but Rosemary, then there was another Rosemary who caught the needle felting bug, so to speak. Excuse me. And then our other Rosemary, who was a volunteer at that time, you could not stop her. She was always found stabby, stabby, stabby with the felty, felty, felty. And she was actually someone who became a vendor at Handmade with Heart, selling really quirky, kind of geeky, nerdy, needle-felted objects. We hadn't seen her at the event in the last few years, but always knew she was out there creating and see pictures of what she was working on. One of her most popular needle-felted items were happy pills. She would make large, lovely needle-felted pills, like medication, with faces, different characters on them. And I think something about that just resonated with our community. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing to see what people are passionate about. This is interesting. I was wondering how the paint would react. Huh. What happens if I do that? So this is absolutely an experiment. This interfacing is a synthetic fiber. So I have no idea how it's going to hold water or color. What I'm hoping is that when it dries, I'll be able to shape it and cut it and turn it into petals. If anyone else out there has ever experimented with painting interfacing before, please let me know. And I know someone said, was it Teresa Tam said that some interfacing could be used as filters in masks, but just another reminder, I think they did issue something about this. Just double check what the interfacing is made of before you use it in a mask. Oh, fascinating. Because I know with some of these fibers, there are things that you don't necessarily want to breathe in. And welcome again to anyone who might be joining us. It's almost 3, heading into the final leg of our virtual art studio today. If you're joining us for the first time, you are so very, very welcome. You're welcome to create with us or to make or just do what you need to do during this time and have us on in the background. And Peter, hello, Peter. Peter saying, nice to see you back, Mary. Just a question, how are you going to use the sign I did for the living room? I was mentioning it before. So once I have my feet back down on the ground, which believe it or not, they're still not on the ground, Peter. I have days, I have moments, and I'm doing my best to take care of myself and give myself time to reflect and process everything that's happened and happening. But it's lovely, and I think I might like to use it as a banner. Who knows? When we get into doing some live streams on YouTube or Twitch, I might even use it as a part of a gallery that we have before the live stream begins. We've tried doing things like that. Hello, Sandy. Oh, welcome. Sandy saying, first time here. Well, you are so very welcome, and thanks for joining the chat. Sometimes I forget to mention that just because other people are chatting You might be watching or listening. There's no need for you to join the chat if you don't feel up to it. That's totally okay. You're still a part of our community, and I still appreciate having your energy in this space. But if you do feel like saying hi, how amazing is that? So welcome, Sandy. Thanks for speaking up. Thanks for letting me know you're here. And if you're working on anything that you'd like to share, please feel free to post in our show and tell pics afterwards as well. I always love seeing what people are working on. And it's nice to be reminded that even though we are not gathering in that same space together anymore, we're still creating, and what we create matters. And sometimes it's nice to have that affirmed by other people. But Peter, yes, I will be using your sign, and I'll keep everyone else up to date too with, the beautiful things that folks submit. I was mentioning that every Monday we're going to be sharing elements from the studio, and specifically the community support board that we had up in the washroom, which was one of, literally, I said it in the post, but I do mean it. It's one of my favorite exhibit spaces at the studio that we had. It's weird that, it was in the bathroom, but I think that's why I loved it, because people would anonymously share messages or create images that could be shared with one another to lift one another's spirits, or perhaps there are just things that people needed to say to themselves, right? Just that positive self-talk to ourselves that we sometimes need to do, that I need to do anyways, that talking to myself out loud. It's a really, I recommend it to anyone. If you don't talk to yourself out loud, give it a try and see, especially in moments where I'm struggling. It's great to have a voice of reason. I know that might sound very strange. I talk out loud, I tell myself what's going on, and I ask for support. And because, I'm lucky enough to have a lot of beautiful supports in my life that have shared wisdom with me over time, I'm just something about asking for it, saying it out loud allows me to access that information a little easier. So I'm able to actually talk it back to myself. That sounds strange, I know. And when things get dark, and for many of us that, can be the case, sometimes that might not be enough. And when that's not enough, definitely reach out for supports that can help you through those difficult times. No shame in that. It's like we live in a community where there are resources available. So that's a beautiful thing. Reach out. But if you haven't tried talking to yourself before, I recommend it. Yeah, I recommend it. An angel saying, interesting, angel saying like the old speaker's corner. Oh, there we go. And Momo's saying Sandy. So I think we have Sandy from, La Camina. Let me see if I can say this again, Momo. I'm going to give it a try. Sandy, Momo, I'm going to give it a try. La Colmina de Arte. Am I putting too much of a fancy spin on it? With no, maybe? I don't know, but welcome. So Sandy's joining today also to doing some homework like Momo. Welcome, Sandy. That's fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. And good on you for doing the homework. I hope we're not being too distracting here with all our chatter. What are you in school for, Sandy? We love learning about that too, because like Lottie, who I think might be still listening out there, there's some of us out there studying and working on such exciting things and exciting programs. It's the future creators, the future movers and shakers of our world. I always like to learn what people are learning about. That way I can keep growing as well. But you don't have to. I'm not the boss of you. But Angel saying, like the old Speaker's Corner. I do remember the old Speaker's Corner. Tell me, Angel, if you're out there, if you can type in reference to what does the old Speaker's Corner remind you of? Is it the community notice, like community support board that reminds you of Speaker's Corner, or is it something different? Because if I had my way, I think that would be a really fun arts experiment to create a kind of Speaker's Corner booth that people could go to share their thoughts and put things on camera. It would be really interesting. That's one of the reasons why we did the Listening to Our Neighbors project with an audio survey, because we're hoping to capture people's voices. So if folks who live in Oshawa, if you live in one of the priority neighborhoods, the Listening to Our Neighbors survey art project is still on. And keep an eye out. We will be hosting Zoom workshops with people to gather stories and to learn about what your experience is like in living in your community. And for those folks who aren't from Oshawa, priority neighborhoods are the name that's been given to 5 areas in Oshawa that neighborhood that Durham Region Health has identified are perhaps underserved, underrecognized, and have specific at-risk areas in need of attention regarding to health, mental health, various social supports or access to those supports. So as a result, these neighborhoods sometimes have a lot of stigma thrown at them, and we get that. I live in one of the neighborhoods, so I know what that's like. And because I live in one of those neighborhoods, I also know that there are so many beautiful, unspoken, unvoiced, wonderful stories about our neighborhoods and the people who live there, more importantly, that deserve recognition and deserve to be championed as well. And okay, Angel, I'm glad. That's awesome. And Sandy saying, I'm checking my students' work. We are finishing school year here. Soon I will be on vacation. Oh, congratulations, hang in, Sandy. Soon, soon, soon. And here, where is here, if you don't mind me asking? We have some folks tuning in from the UK, I know, here. Some folks in other parts of Ontario, Quebec and Montreal. And, and Momo saying, yay, I need vacations. Yes. Taking breaks is so important. And it can be strange during this time because I think there can be this strange idea that we have more time because of what's going on with the world and the pandemic. But I don't know about you folks, but it feels like my time is so very full. And it takes longer to do things, much longer to do things that once upon a time seemed so effortless or to happen so rapidly. Now it's different. An angel saying, yes, let's put a speaker's corner in Memorial Park. That would be a very interesting project indeed. Yeah. I wonder, I can imagine the kind of stories we might get from that speaker's corner. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe, who knows? Maybe that'll be part of the mobile studio project if we get some funding for that. Maybe we'll carry along with us a little camera, have a kind of booth that people can speak to, share their art, share their heart, their stories, their music. And Shelley's saying, I do too. And is that a vacation that you need? Oh, and Sandy is in Colombia. Welcome. Oh my goodness, fantastic. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for spending some time with us in Oshawa today. And Momo says, I just need time to clean my house and read a book. No meetings, no obligations, just reading for fun. That is my favorite thing to do if I have a vacation. It's funny, it's simple, but it's also, reading a book. That's the best vacation ever. Just having a whole day where all you do is read. That's lovely. Read for pleasure. That's what a beautiful day. And I have so many books waiting. And yeah, there's been a lot of meetings, a lot of screen time, a lot of things that have been made more difficult by not having the kind of access to other people who might help you do those things. So even things like housework, I hear you, Momo. There's like moments where, it's like folding the laundry, doing the dishes, those simple things, they take up time. They need time. And Laura saying, I miss our neighborhood sometimes, but our new one is wonderful too. Laura used to live in my neighborhood before she moved away. And we have a very unique, we're in the downtown or central Oshawa priority neighborhood. And there's a lot of interesting characters who live here. There's a lot of wonderful stories. Some need, for sure. A lot of struggle. Each one of us struggles in our own way. So it's not like anyone is immune to that. I think that's important to remember, too, that these struggles are human struggles. And they're found everywhere. It's just when they get out of balance, that's when I think it's important to step in, to rupture that a little bit so that we can be reminded that there's options, there's choices, right? And your new neighborhood sounds amazing, Laura. That is true. Everything that I see or hear about it, you live in a very creative community as well, a community that supports the arts and embraces artists, and that I'm a little jealous about. And Shelley says, yes, Shelley lives in one of the priority neighborhoods in Oshawa as well. So keep an eye out. We will have workshops. So if folks want to join and see one another's faces and share stories and perhaps hopefully spark off other interesting stories, Danny Crosby, the artist who's helping us create the neighborhood portraits based on everyone's stories, she will be a part of those workshops too. And we'll just talk, we'll chat, we'll create, we'll share stories about our neighborhoods and what makes them interesting places to live and work and grow. And Angel's saying, yeah, my art is really ugly today. Interesting. Well, if you want to share pictures of it, Angel, go for it. What am I going to do here? So I'm learning about interfacing and synthetic fibers. And what they do, what they absorb, or what they don't absorb. Perhaps if I used some inks on these, I wonder, I might get a really interesting effect as well. But for the time being, I'll set those aside to dry as well. And what I will do is, excellent, Angel, thank you. Again, I love seeing images of people's work, and hopefully community members, you don't mind sharing them. You don't have to if you don't want to. But if there is something you'd like to post after, you're more than welcome. And that way we get a sense of what one another are working on. And perhaps, you never know, we might even inspire one another. So these pieces that I'm pulling out right now, I made them in one of the very first live streams we ever did. Art ASMR. Momo says, the sounds of art making. Yeah, here. I have to remember sometimes that it's okay to not talk. Right? It's okay. But these pieces here, for folks who were watching live streams in the early days, and when we were still figuring out what we were doing and how to do it, I made a tissue paper rainbow for the front window. And I took the pieces down around Halloween because I figured it was time to, make things a little spooky. And they were lovely and faded, and you just see the character of the paper coming through, and I wanted to repurpose them. So I'm going to do that now. Oh, interesting. Momo says that is something new that has been emphasized during the Zooms. I'm actually hoping to post live streams where I purposefully don't talk. So all there is the sound of art making. And hopefully the idea being, let's see what we got here. You can just spend time with one another and the sounds of the art making. I'm going to peel off the wax paper since it kind of wants to come off. Where it wants to come off. Yeah, maybe a late night live stream where I don't talk, just make art and have the sounds of the art making. Maybe some music, because I know that Momo, your art hive, your virtual hive, and some of the other hives too, they'll play music and make art, so it doesn't necessarily have to be about talking or filling the space with words. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's nice to have options. So that doesn't want to come off, but maybe it does. It's nice not being... Sometimes it's just nice to know you're not on your own. Oh, Momo saying, great idea, although we love hearing you, Mary Cronert. Oh, my ego appreciates that. I put it in my pocket for a rainy day. I do love chatting with folks. But it's, I think there's room for everything. And I recognize sometimes there are times of the day where all I feel like doing is just being quiet. So I think there's space for it as well. I think there's space for everything. Just finding the right times and the right places to do it. And Momo saying, that is a great idea. Maybe we can share with you the list of songs our participants have been requesting at La Colmina and pair it with your art making sounds. Momo, is this a creative collaboration that's unfurling before my eyes? And folks, too, if I was lucky enough to interview Momo and Ana Garcia for an Artist Chat live stream when the features I was doing, the spotlights on other virtual hives that were out there. So if you're wondering, like, who is this Momo that I'm chatting to? You can actually, and Momo, I'm not sure if you know this, but you can see I've uploaded the interviews that we've done onto the Living Room's YouTube channel. So if you'd like to catch up on that interview and learn a little bit about Momo and La Colmina and what they're doing and in their Spanish-speaking hive, you are more than welcome to do so. And Momo you have Spotify lists? That's amazing. Okay, all right. There's something to chat about here. There's something to chat about here for sure. I'm not going to try watercolor in that, but what do I want to do here? Maybe this? And this is me experimenting, not really knowing what I'm doing. Or maybe singing as well. Oh, excellent. So Angel, my ugly art is on your profile. So Angel, you've posted your art on your own Facebook page. So folks, if that's what you mean, Angel, if you want to see Angel's ugly art, you can see his name and find Angel on Facebook. So that, again, natural that wax paper would not absorb watercolor. Yeah, I knew that. I totally knew that. What am I going to do here? Let's see. Revisiting things that I haven't done in a very long time. Curling paper. I have some kind of sense memory of a spoon being involved in processes like this, so I'm just going to play with it and see what happens. And Momo says you can follow us at, oh wow, you have, okay, so you have a Spotify, forgive me, I don't know a whole lot about Spotify. Radio Colmina, this is awesome. That's great. So folks, if you're looking for some music to make art to, please check out Radio Colmina. Can you post a link to that? Is that something that Facebook will allow you to do? How lovely. Radio has played a huge, healthy part in my life over the last few months for sure. Music, listening to records, listening to tapes. I found a whole bunch of mixed tapes the other day when we were cleaning out the basement. And Angel saying, I like doing left-handed art too. Yes. Like non-dominant hand art, Angel, where you're letting kind of that other part of your brain speak through your work. Yeah. Maybe next Wednesday I'll start with a warm-up and a left-handed art-making warm-up. It's amazing to see what happens when you let that part of your brain take over for a little while. Excellent. So let's see, what do I want to do here? Now, let's see, those might be drying enough. I wanted to play with that the same way that I'm playing with the paper and add that in. I wanted to see if I could fold and shape. Oh, excellent. Thank you, Momo. That's fantastic. I love how creative folks are getting. I love it. Now, I know full well that I'm probably not going to be able to finish this in the time we have. But I'm not going to let that stop me. What do I need? Oh, maybe I need something larger. And I'll use this glue stick. Let's see, and Momo has posted the Spotify list for their virtual hive. So folks, I guess you can go and listen to that and check it out. Listen to some music while you're making art. Drop into another world for a little while and see how the music shapes the work you do and influences what you create. You never know. And Momo says this is a list with the songs that have been requested during the online art hive. Brilliant. Yeah, I don't know many artists who work in absolute silence. That's an interesting thing. So folks, if you're listening out there, anyone that creates in absolute quiet, I'd be interested to hear from you. I know that part of my life I've always, and this might just be a child raised by TV, but I think I've always created with something, some kind of sound in the background. Sometimes even just the TV. Many a night working late, and once upon a time when TV used to kind of shut off at a certain point in time, even just listening to the barcode that would show up at the end of the night, or the fuzz that would come on afterwards. White noise can be really comforting too. And Shelley saying, thanks to everyone who has been taking part today. It has been a great time with this living room community again this week. Shelley, thank you for being here, and thank you for contributing to that energy. And I realize it is 20 after 3, so there might be folks who have to go. There might be, things or people to be picked up, errands to run. And if you need to run, that is okay. I'll be back next Wednesday for another live stream, and you are welcome to join us. Come as you are. Bring whatever materials you might have to create, or simply have us on in the background while you're working on other things, if that's what gives you joy. You're more than welcome. And for the folks who might be listening but not contributing to the chat, you're welcome too. It's so great to have you here, to know that you're listening. To the folks who are listening after it's been archived, you count too. Just know that if you comment, I might not be able to get back to you right away since the live stream is over. So if I'm not responding to you right away, that's probably why. But if there's something you really want to share, feel free to message me or send the studio an email at info@livingroomcommunityartstudio.org. Longest name in the world, I know. I could have just said Living Room Art Hive and things would have been a lot simpler. But what have I ever done things the easy way? And Joe says, interesting. Font leave. I'm driving soon. Need the calm. Please stay, Mary. Oh my goodness, Joe. The calm is a good thing. Are you saying that I'm calming? Wow, I take that as a compliment. I don't often feel very calming, so if I contribute to that for anyone out there, I am so happy to do that. And Shelley's saying, always exciting to take part. Joe says, thank you, Mary. Thank you, Joe. Give my love to everybody. And say, well, the living rooms, we're still here. Changing spaces, changing places. And Peter, if you're out there still, if you want to share the artwork that you've made in the show and tell post afterwards, it was kind of a collaboration between Peter and Laura, actually. That would be lovely. Because I can't offhand remember the saying that we finally settled on to describe what this is, what this virtual creative time is together. different than the actual studio space, but just as beautiful, just as precious, I think. Precious and resilient. And my strange little poppy would really like a darker petal. That one might do. And my day experimenting with paper and random textiles. I think, what do I want to do here? Let's see what happens if I stitch on this. That's what happens when you're playing with thread and a glue stick at the same time. Let's see. And I will be back next week, next Wednesday. We're back into the routine, back into the swing of things. Lots of creativity, lots of art making every week, working on different things. And of course, I'll keep folks updated about what's happening. Stitching paper. Because why not? And once those are dry, yeah, I'll do the same with them. I'm looking forward to experimenting with this interesting interfacing that we have here. Got a whole roll of it. And just a reminder for folks too, if you're out there and perhaps you're looking for art supplies. I know Courtney brought it up near the beginning, but just another reminder, especially since, depending on where you're at as well, there might be limited access to materials, or where you're at, there might be different kinds of lockdowns or restrictions on accessing these materials right now. Know that the community is still out there. So same as, just the same way that we do. If you're feeling comfortable with people, you can reach out, make a post, put a request out there in the community, arrange for a drop-off or an exchange. There's so many people who have materials to share. They'd be happy to share them with you. And Sandy saying, could you please share the lollipop flower's meaning? I have heard about that, but I'm not completely sure. Well, today, a lollipop, it's every year at the Living Room around this time of year, which is today, November 11th, is Canada's Remembrance Day. So it's a day where we honor our community members, family members who are of service in the military. And we remember, I suppose, the end of World War One, but in a large part of that, there's a famous poem called In Flanders. Well, maybe this isn't the title. If folks are out there who know the title, please post it. But there's a poem that I'm familiar with. It's called In Flanders Field. And here, at least in my lifetime as children, we were raised with this poem about the poppies that grew in between the headstones of soldiers who were lost in battle. And so every day in remembrance here, and I believe in the UK as well, we wear poppies to honor our service people and to remember the people in the past who we've lost to war. I also wear a poppy to honor family members and caregivers of people in service because they're often forgotten about. And the toll that any battle takes on anyone, regardless of whether this is a battle in war or perhaps even to remember refugees or people escaping violent or war-torn situations. I wear the poppy for them as well. And we do it one day a year around this time of year to remember people. And making poppies has become a tradition at the Living Room because we usually host a workshop where I think one year we did fabric poppies. This year, the poppy that I'm making is paper, and perhaps I'll make some out of these if it works out. And generally, when we have those workshops, any pay what you can donations that come in, we donate to the Legion. So to help with veterans and to support veterans' families and things like that. So I hope that helps answer the question. It's a tradition I know that is in many places in the world over, but a little different depending on where you are. And of course, there are many different opinions on this. It's, I think, for myself, it's not necessarily about honoring war or battles and the violence and the destruction that comes from those things, but honoring the people who are trying to make a difference on my behalf, and in the past who've tried to make a difference on my ancestors' behalves. And I know in Oshawa is a very, I don't know if I would describe it as a military town, but we have a lot of service people here. We're not very far away from a place called Trenton, which is another military base. Oh, no worries, Sandy. Thank you so much for asking. Again, it's sometimes I forget. I make these assumptions about, how we understand things. And the truth is, there's so many things to learn. There's always something to learn. It would be interesting to learn about the traditions you might have in Colombia to honor those that have been lost. I know every country has different struggles and different battles. Not all of them related to military. There are many countries where the military necessarily isn't to be trusted. I can't say that the military here is always to be trusted. But for those who I know, those family members that I know, those friends that I know, they're doing their best. I like to honor them and the love that they give and the ways that are meaningful to them. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's not always an easy subject matter. But I think it's always important to keep the conversation going, the dialogue flowing. And the more we learn about one another's traditions, the better. The greater insight we have into one another's worlds. A little more insight into understanding who we are. Yeah. Into the days where we have to fight, where there are no more battles to be fought. Let's see. How's that looking? It's looking okay. Haha, the underbelly. I remember someone teaching me how to embroider and cross stitch, and the idea was that you should be able to look at the back of the piece you're working on and it'll be just as beautiful as the front. That's not me. And Momo's saying, yeah, we don't have that in Mexico. This is a very new thing for me too, although I've been here in Canada for a while. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and it's a very, again, complicated thing because it ties into a lot of stuff. And for a lot of people, complicated conversations about colonialism, about empire, all the things that in Canada still have very interesting roots. But it also speaks to service and people wanting to make a difference and to putting their lives on the line to do so. I'm always willing to learn and always willing to have those kind of conversations to understand what it's like to be someone else. So that today is my little poppy and my dyed red hands from these interesting pieces over here. I don't know. I'll keep you posted on how that works out. But that worked. I think I'm happy with that piece. And that's why I wear this too. Where is it? Here. There it is. Yeah. So you'll see a lot of folks today wearing poppies in Canada. And in the UK as well, I believe, different kind of representations of that. There's also a white poppy out there for peace. And I believe many pacifists would wear the white poppy as well to signify that. So again, so many conversations that emerge out of symbols and how we use symbols. Yeah. Powerful stuff. Humans, meaning-making machines. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. Should I do a little close-up of this little wonky poppy? Let's see. Wonky poppy. In my glue sticky hands. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for spending time hanging out, creating, or just making space for yourself to do the things you need to do. You're always welcome. Little poppy. And again, I'm really looking forward to being back here next week. I'm so happy to be here today with everyone making and creating art, making a mess of my studio at home. Thank you for spending time with me. And again, until we can connect and create in person, I really do look forward every week to connecting and creating with you here. Keep an eye out for those workshops. If you live in a priority neighborhood or you know someone who does, we'll be posting those workshop events soon. And please share them. Let folks know we need as many voices as possible to make that neighborhood portrait project, the listening to our neighbors project, interesting and dynamic. We want to listen to as many of our community members as possible. So keep an eye out for those events coming your way soon. And again, we'll be back next Tuesday talking to another community creator on our artist live stream chats. Yeah, this is awesome. It's good to be back. So take care of yourselves out there today. Enjoy this. Well, here in Oshawa, it's very lovely weather outside, so I might go outside and take a little stroll, hug a tree right now. But take care of yourselves wherever you are. And feel free to share your work with us in the show and tell post after this. And keep creating, keep taking care of yourself. And let's be kind to one another. Yeah? Okay. Have a great day, folks. See you soon. Bye. That's it. There we go. Bye.